First, let me introduce myself. For those of you who do not already know me, I am Miriam May. I'm the CEO of the Friends of the Arava Institute. My team is based in Newton, Massachusetts. Our responsibility is to recruit students from North America, share the message like today, and raise funds for the support of the Arava Institute, including our signature Israel bike ride, which is taking place this fall, and our Beyond Borders tour, which is taking place next spring. We are delighted to have all of you here and more joining by the minute. The Arava Institute for Environmental Studies is a leading environmental studies and research institute in the Middle East. It houses accredited academic programs, research centers, and international cooperation initiatives focusing on the range of environmental concerns and challenges despite regional conflict. With a student body comprised of Jordanians, Israelis, and Palestinians, as well as citizens from around the world, the Arava Institute offers students an exceptional opportunity to learn from leading professionals while forming friendships and developing skills that enable them to lead the region and the world in solving today's most pressing environmental challenges and forming bonds with each other and understanding each other as friends. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tareq Abu Hamed. Tarek is a resident of East Jerusalem and holds a PhD in chemical engineering from Ankara University in Turkey. He has completed 2 postdocs, one with the University of Minnesota, the other with the Weizmann Institute, and left those postdocs to become the head of our Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation at the Arava Institute. He left the Institute in 2013 for 2 years to become the Israeli Ministry of Science's Deputy Chief Scientist and later the Acting Chief Scientist, for, at the time, the highest ranking Palestinian in the Israeli government. He returned to the Arava Institute in 2016 as Director of Renewable Energy Center, as stated above, and Academic Director. At the end of this summer, Tarek will take on the role of Executive Director of the Arava Institute, making us one of the few Israeli institutes, or maybe the only academic Israeli institute, with an Arab Israeli as its Executive Director. And he is succeeding David Lehrer, whom many of you know, who is retiring as Executive Director and will spend the next year on a postdoc in Boston at Boston University, but also helping us in terms of outreach and fundraising and consulting to us. So we're not losing David, we're just gaining Tarek in this role. So I'm going to start with a few questions for Tarek and then get to some of the questions that some of you have sent in advance. You also are able to chat questions. I don't know if there's any other instruction I need to give, but you can chat questions and I will see them. And if we have time and they can fit in, some of the questions have repeated themselves. So it may sound a little like someone else's version of your question, but we are happy to have gotten those in advance. Before we get down to the sort of details of what we see as next, I wanted to ask Tarek, as a resident of Jerusalem, and also a resident of the Arava Institute, of Kibbutz Keturah and the Arava Institute, where he comes to spend his time during the academic year, certainly. How is the experience of the conflict for you and your extended family in the Jerusalem area?
Thank you, Miriam. And thank you, my colleagues at the Friends of the Arava Institute, for arranging this. And thank you for all the audience for being with us this afternoon. It was a really tense and difficult period of time. It was during the holy month of Ramadan and the Eid, where families come together, where all people come together. What happened was very hard to digest, very hard to accept. We almost weren't able to go outside of our home. Almost every place tend to be unsafe. We're angry, we're sad, but being a Tarek and being as a member of the Arava Institute family, I decided to take my wife and my kids to Kibbutz Ketura, where the institute is located, and that's where we lived with my family for 5 years. My parents, my siblings stayed in Jerusalem. It was really important for me and for my wife to show our kids that being with the other is totally normal. When I mean the other, it means the Israelis. For the Israelis, it means the Palestinians. We wanted to show them that it's totally normal to be with the other, even in the middle of the conflict. This is the only way we can build trust. This is the only way we can coexist. I know the impact of being with the other very well. From the first Intifada when I was 17 years old, I had the chance to interact with my neighbors in Kibbutz Ramat Rachel. And if you had told me 35 years ago when I was volunteering to pick apples and cherries in Kibbutz Ramat Rachel, which is 1 mile from my home, that I would be the first Palestinian to run the Arava Institute or the first Palestinian to be the acting chief scientist at the Israeli Ministry of Science and Technology, I most definitely wouldn't have believed you. I went to the kibbutz to learn, to Kibbutz Ramat Rachel, to pick up cherries. My main goal was actually to learn English, but I learned a lot of things other than the English. I was exposed to the narrative of the other, and that experience was a life-changing experience for me. So I wanted to have my kids into the kibbutz to allow them have the same experience. We need to come together even during the hardest times. That's the only way we can coexist together in this tense region.
Thank you so much, Tarek. I'm glad your family was safe and well during this time of stress for all people in the region, especially Jerusalemites and people in the south of Israel. I know the Arava Institute was on a short break during some of the conflict for Shavuot and Eid, which kind of came at the same time. Were students able to come back across the border from Palestine, and how did the Institute function during the conflict?
Actually, all the students returned to the Institute. Actually, this week we are having the last week of classes, and next week there will be the final exams. All students were engaged in the discussion, and they were all on in campus, returned safety to their classrooms, to their dorms, to the kibbutz. The staff of the academic department and the leadership of the institute had been in ongoing contact with the students, providing sympathy, support, and space to discuss how they were feeling. There was a general sense of despair, frustration, and exhaustion with the reality of the situation, but comfort in being together and supporting one another. The first thing the students did actually before they came back to the institute, when the situation started with Gaza, they decided to come together in a Zoom, not to wait 1 or 2 days to come to the campus. They immediately arranged a Zoom with the students who were not on the campus. This is the nature of the Arava Institute. When something happens, when conflict starts, when war starts, they decide to come together, because this is the only way we can solve these challenges. We had one Palestinian student on the campus during the Shavuot and the Eid, and actually he said a very powerful sentence. He said, as a Palestinian growing up in a Palestinian village in the West Bank, I always feel unsafe. But when I came to the Arava Institute, these 3 months were the safest months I ever had in my life. And when the war started, I started feeling unsafe again. But when I saw the support of the kibbutz members and the Arava Institute family, I'm feeling safe again. And it's really important to mention the nature and the type of the students who come to the Arava Institute. No one of the students thought or decided to leave the program. They all continued. No one put this idea up, neither from the Israelis or the Palestinians. Neither their families asked them to leave, because their families know that they are in a safe place. And I can tell you that the strongest and the most active alumni of the Arava Institute, it's the alumni who actually experienced war or serious conflict while they were students at the Arava Institute. So they all safe, they all back, they all in their classrooms, and hopefully in 10 days they will finish the exams and they will go home safely.
Thank you. The Arava Institute, through its Track 2 environmental diplomacy work, which is a bottoms-up initiative that works to actually make change on the ground with our countries with whom we are in conflict in Gaza, in the West Bank, has projects going on. Are we in touch with those projects, and how do we see the work going forward?
We are always in touch with our partners in Gaza, in the West Bank, and also in Jordan. And when the war started, actually, between Israel and Gaza, we've been in touch with our Gazan partners from day one, almost on a daily basis in Gaza, in the West Bank, and also in Jordan. We have several projects in the Gaza Strip. One of them is actually a device that produces water from the atmosphere. It's a company called WaterGen. It's a sustainable atmospheric water generator. We installed 2 systems in Gaza. One of them is in the roof of one of the hospitals in Khan Yunis, which is in the east part of Gaza, and it's actually the second largest hospital in Gaza, which is controlled. The hospital is controlled by the municipality, the community leadership. This system runs on solar power. When the war started, actually, we asked our partners to take some photos of the system, of the projects, and they were not able to do that because the roads were closed and blocked or destroyed. But we got photos after the war finished, and we saw people actually filling water from these systems. And yesterday, actually, we had a Zoom meeting with our partners in Gaza, saying actually the lack of drinking water and the functionality of this system, having this system functioning even during the war actually increased demand for the system. More people are coming to fill drinking water from the system. Our partner organizations, engineers, actually connected the system to solar panels, to batteries, to have it function around the clock to provide more drinking water. Municipalities, schools, hospitals approached our partners in Gaza and asked for projects like this because of the lack of drinking water and electricity. We are continuing our projects on solar panels, having solar fields in Gaza, which is needed more than ever now. And just yesterday, our Center for Transboundary Water Management installed a desalination unit, seawater, brackish water desalination unit in the Jordan Valley that will allow the farmers to generate drinking water and higher quality water for farming. We are in touch with them, continuing the work. They're asking for more projects, and we will continue business as usual.
If we can get support for these projects, we can really, the demand is now exceeding the supply.
Indeed.
And In fact, I want to be clear, we can do these projects because we have experience in doing them. We have a partner in Gaza who is not Hamas, and we have the cooperation of the Israel Defense Forces, who does want clean water available to the people of Gaza, just as we do.
Indeed.
It's a humanitarian need. Shared society within Israel took a beating this round in a way that was sort of unexpected to many people. That shared society being the idea that there is a civil society relationship between Arab citizens of Israel and Israeli citizens of Israel. And this was the first time, I think, that there was clearly related mob violence in integrated cities like Lod and Haifa and other places. And it really kind of shook people who've invested in this arena and were hopeful for this to go forward. What do you see? It's very disheartening to people in the US who've invested in this arena and Israelis as well. How do you see, as an Israeli Palestinian, both personally and professionally, how can we help heal this divide?
This is an excellent question and a very important and timely one. But before I answer this, I want to add a few things on the situation in Gaza. Look, in the Gaza Strip, 65% of the population in Gaza is younger than 25 years old. That means 1.3 million people. This is twice the population of Boston, twice the population of Seattle, twice the population of DC. Can you imagine having 1.3 million people below the age of 25 years in DC? Can you imagine having a city like Gaza with 1.3 million people that they never saw anything outside of Gaza, the whole life in the Gaza Strip? So what we do in Gaza, actually, we create jobs. We do trainings. When we bring systems like this, we train the engineers how to run them. We create jobs for them. We planning to do solar energy training, how to design, install, plan a solar field. And as you said, we do this in cooperation with our partners and with the civil administration in Israel. Solar fields, drinking water. Solar fields is not only for electricity production. Solar fields actually to allow us to treat the wastewater in the Gaza Strip that goes to the Mediterranean, that will use the aquifer, the shared aquifer between Israel and Gaza. And these are really important and urgent challenges that we face in the Eastern Mediterranean. To come to the important question of the shared society, what happened in the last 2-3 weeks should be a wake-up call for all of us. It is the time to speak loud. It is the time to actually shout, all of us, everyone in this call, everyone who knows what happened in Israel. We have a silent majority. We have inactive majority. And this silent majority allows the minority, the extremist minorities, to speak or to be more vocal. So it's our role also at the Arava Institute and as individuals to speak loud, to do more projects, to show people that this is the normal way to live, to exist with each other. We have a common goal, more than just we want to coexist. I do this for not only because I love peace, because I want to do good things for my people. And I believe that everyone in this call wants to do good for the people in this region. We are solving issues of shared concern, which is the environment. We use the environment as a diplomacy tool to connect between people, even inside Israel. I'm involved in the committee and council. It's called the Council for Jerusalem. They're actually planning to have the IT, the high tech in West Jerusalem to accept more East Jerusalemites. The Arava Institute is working with the Jerusalem municipality in several projects. One of them is the environmental leadership program, where we give lectures, where we give training to people from East Jerusalem to be more environmentalists, to be more active, to be environmental leaders. We know and we understand the sense of fear and the lack of resources within the Arab community, and the best way to solve that is actually to educate people, to give them the right tools to find jobs. We know from our alumni that they are establishing organic farms in the Arab villages in the north, and it's nothing nicer than seeing the fruits of the work that you do, and you see active alumni that they conduct such projects within Israel, within East Jerusalem. And also, I don't want to ignore the issue of the Bedouins in southern Israel. We need to have more Bedouins. We have to have more Arab students into the Arava Institute. It's for the benefit for all of us to, as I said, to give them the tools to convert them to environmental leaders within their communities.
I know that jobs is a key issue, and you've touched on a number of areas in which our alumni are active and where we can train more people in this area. Bringing these new renewable technologies into communities shows people the benefit of this work. In Pirkei Avot of the Babylonian Talmud, Rabbi Tarfon says, "It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it." What is our go forward here? If we had more resources, what would be your next priorities? What do we do next to help ensure that more people hear our message of cooperation, our ability? You've talked about getting louder. I think that's something that we and you together need to do. And we look to all of you as maybe ambassadors of this message, now that you've heard what we are doing and what we can say and how we can go forward. But what's next? What are your priorities, especially as an incoming executive director?
Yeah, I really liked this this part of it's not your duty to finish the work, but you shouldn't give up. We have a lot of similar phrases also in the Quran. If I told you we could bypass the political stalemate and build relationships and peace from the ground up while solving pressing environmental challenges at the same time, all while preparing the future leaders. If I had more resources, actually I'd go for a larger impact. That means a larger campus, more labs, in order to increase the impact that we have in our region. Secure funds for alumni joint initiatives, and this is really important for us. Our main product is the alumni, the graduates of the Arava Institute, and we want to help them actually stay in touch, initiate joint projects together, Israelis, Palestinians, Israeli Jewish, Israeli Arabs, Palestinians with Jordanians. If I had more resources, as I mentioned, we need more projects in Gaza Strip. We have to install more systems, to secure funds for more technologies to serve rural communities in Israel, Palestine, and Jordan, to give the young generation in Gaza to have projects, to finish their schools, to train them on high tech, on renewable energy, on sustainable farming. We live in a region, as I said, with a silent majority, but actually we don't have the luxury, we don't have the right to give up. we have to build trust. We cannot lose hope. We need to increase our impact. More students, more graduates, more projects on the ground, more scientific collaborations with our neighbors.
We appreciate that. Now, as we look at the wider Middle East, this is a question a number of people have asked. The Abraham Accords, our neighbors in Jordan, what can come next there? What is our opportunity, shall we say, to make that move us forward?
Yeah, there's a great opportunity there. And our partners in Palestine, in Jordan, know the agenda of the Arava Institute. The agenda of the Arava Institute is shared society. It's the environment. We build trust. Our partners in these countries know us very well. Currently, actually, we are in contact and in touch and planning with our Jordanian partners to have a campus in Jordan. This campus actually will allow us to have a wider impact in the Arab countries. This may allow us also to bring students from the United Arab Emirates, from Bahrain, from Morocco. And actually, we worked with some of these countries before the Abraham Accords, and partners know us. The trust that we built in our region give us a lot of credit. So we are a known organization in the Middle East. It's a great opportunity to increase the number of our students, as I said, from the region, to do more research. The credit that we built actually allowed some organizations, even academic organizations, NGOs, to contact us from some Arab countries, even from the countries that did not sign an agreement with Israel yet. They contacted us directly, and some organizations contacted us through the Israeli Foreign Ministry.
Tarek, a question that has been asked, and I am going to ask to unmute Congresswoman Lowy in a moment, but there's a question about Gazan students. Now, I know the answer to this one, but I'll let you answer. Have we had students from Gaza? What's our possibility of bringing people in for training, et cetera, and so forth? I actually will take a moment and tell you a wonderful story about a Gazan student that was with us. He had spent a couple of weeks with us, had joined a little late, and his English wasn't as fluent as the speed with which the Yad Vashem tour was taking place when they went on one of our trips that we take students on during the semester to see both sides of the story in real time in Israel. And so one of our other students said, well, I used to be a tour guide for the Israeli army. I'll tour you through. At the end of that tour, he said the most amazing thing. He said, I always understood that 6 million people had died and about the Holocaust, but I never understood so much why your people needed this country. And which is an amazing, amazing thing. It kind of gives me goosebumps for a Gazan who's lived all his life in the world of that messaging, to be able to say and to be comfortable enough to say, to trust his Israeli partner enough to say that. So we do get Gazan students. Sometimes they're able to go home. We're hoping to do a training project, I know, coming up. If that's okay with you, Tarek, and I answered that question, I'm going to ask my colleagues to unmute Congresswoman Lowy.
Yeah, just let me add one thing. Currently, we have actually 2 Gazan students, alumni from the Arava Institute, who are doing their graduate studies in Israel. And I'm proud to say that the vast majority of the Jordanians who did their graduate studies in Israel passed through the Arava Institute. So we are the gate for the Jordanian students to Israel. More than 85% of the Palestinians who conduct graduate studies in Israel, also passed through the Arava Institute. During the last week of Ramadan, I went to Ben Gurion University and I had the iftar dinner with the Jordanian and the Gazan alumni. And it's really beautiful to see them flourish and they conduct their studies in Israel.
Congresswoman Lowy, do you have a question? If so, please unmute yourself.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate this briefing. You work with many Palestinians. Many, I'm sure, are involved or connected or know of or related to Hamas. Could you discuss that further? What is their attitude, the students who are connected to Hamas, who come to the Institute? What is their attitude towards Israel? And is there a prospect of positive attitudes that can spread to their friends and their neighbors and their families?
Just before we say, I hand this back to Tarek, I will say that everyone who comes to the Institute is vetted by the Israeli Defense Forces. So we don't like admit, random people who are not qualified for our program, do not have excellent English, and who do not have the ability to come. But I'll hand it back to Tarek for more explication.
Yeah, look, it's all the organizations that we work with in Gaza, they are not related to Hamas. Neither the students that we bring from Gaza to Israel. Actually, they get security clearance from the Israeli forces before they come to Israel, to the Arava Institute. However, the impact is not limited only with the students or our partners that are not related to Hamas. When you have a project in Gaza that benefits the whole community, also that's a good example for all kinds of people within Gaza that this is doable and it's needed and it's humanitarian. And we know our students, when they graduate from the Arava Institute and when they do their studies in Israel and they go back into Gaza, they will be the ambassadors of coexistence. They will be the ambassadors of peace. They are not related to Hamas, but their neighbors, their friends, their community will hear from them. And the same thing for other Palestinians within the West Bank or Israel. And the same thing also for the Israelis, to talk about their experience with the Palestinians, and also the American students to talk about their experience and how to live together. When I say live, I mean it. Our students, they share, it's a kibbutz. They share the classroom, they share the dormitory, and they share the dining room. They live together 24/7, and that's a life-changing experience for them. And I have no doubt that they go back to their communities and they tell their own stories.
We have many questions coming in, but I'm going to start with some of the ones that came in advance. To what extent does the Arava Institute collaborate and partner with other organizations, including the Malta Conference Foundation, that have the same mission, and to use science diplomacy as a bridge to peace with Israelis and Palestinians, and by extension between Israel and other nations in the Middle East?
Wonderful question. The Malta Conferences Foundation, as colleagues, uses the science as a diplomacy tool to connect between scientists in the Middle East. We have a similar mission, a similar vision to use the environment as a diplomacy tool to connect between people. The Arava Institute is involved with the activities of the Malta Conferences since for 20 years. And the Arava Institute actually takes a very active part in the Malta conferences, and we arrange several workshops, several activities on water, on energy, on environmental education. And I'm glad to say that in the last conference we had almost 10 alumni from the Arava Institute who joined the Malta conferences.
The closing of the Jordanian border due to COVID, as well as the current sort of emotional turmoil that our Palestinian friends in the West Bank, Gaza, and even in Israel are feeling, especially among students, might make the kind of diversity we've always strived for at the Arava Institute more challenging. What do you look to do to kind of ensure that Arab students and our desired balance of 1/3 international students, 1/3 Israeli students, and 1/3 Palestinian students or Arab students from the region is continued?
Okay, just let me clarify. Currently, we don't have any problem in bringing Palestinians and Israeli Arabs to our program. And I have no doubt that when the COVID will pass and the borders will open again with Jordan, that we will have Jordanian students. We have a recruitment team in Jordan that's still functioning, still working with us. So once the border opens, I have no doubt that we will have students from Jordan, and we are in very close contact and touch with the Israeli embassy in Amman.
Thank you. There are 200 people here today, and many of you have questions. I'm sorry, we will not get to all of them. I don't want to go over our time, of course. What gives you a sense that large-scale coexistence has a chance? And the counterpart to that question, just to give it to you both in advance, is, civil society has really sort of taken a beating on this one. What's the big picture answer? Where does that answer lie, in your opinion? This is you, both as an Israeli Arab, as a citizen, as a Palestinian, and as our future director.
Okay, I'll tell you a personal story. When I was first interviewed to my job at the Arava Institute back in 2008, actually in my mind, I said, no way, it's in the middle of nowhere. I won't go to the desert to work until I met the students, until I met the Israelis, the Arabs, Palestinians, Jordanians, Israeli Arabs, and then I changed my mind and said, I'm staying here in this place. We have to, as I said, we don't have the luxury to give up. The Arava Institute is a big think tank organization. It has an impact on the ground. I'm very optimistic, and I'm like that because I see the results of the work that the Arava Institute does on the ground by bringing students together, by bringing communities together, by bringing scientists from Palestine, Israel, Jordan, by bringing Israeli Arab academicians to the Arava Institute. And that's what gives me the hope. When you are exposed to nice events like this, you will never give up. You will never lose the hope. We need your support. We need you to speak loud in order to have a larger impact. To stay silent is not the solution. And as I said, when I see the results of the work that we do everywhere, that what keeps me actually hopeful, optimistic, and functioning, regardless of all the difficulties that we face.
We appreciate it. We've been asked questions. The chat has been a lot of fun to watch over here on the side. We've been invited to India. We've been invited for you to speak in Canada. We've been invited to help solve agricultural problems. We've been asked about the US government's role in supporting this work as they rebuild infrastructure in Gaza, and even the cost of a water gen unit. I will say, I'll answer that a little bit. That can be, it depends on the size of the unit. We're very pleased to say that WaterGen provides a large discount of 50% of the cost of the unit. However, they also need solar power. So the answer is between $80,000 and $150,000 to put in a unit that serves either a community center or a hospital. These are the larger kind of units. These aren't personal. We're doing these for communities, and we're doing it in a public way so that we are very proud to say that our partners in Gaza have been willing to be public about the Arava Institute, about Israel, and about WaterGen cooperating on these initiatives, which is really pretty astounding considering the political climate in much of Gaza. Do you think that there's ways to bring people from communities that have had these incidences of internecine strife inside Israel to the Institute for helping them understand what kind of cooperation is possible? Or is there a way the Institute can go to those communities and bring this message?
Okay, now I'm mute. Actually, we do both. We bring groups from.
Point out that you can, if you can hear Tarek, that is also the call to prayer you hear in the background.
Yeah.
So it reminds us where we live.
Exactly. I was saying that actually we do both. We bring communities to the Arava Institute. The Arava Institute goes to these communities, farmer communities, education centers, not only within Israel, it's also within Palestine, Jordan, and also we have we used to run actually before COVID a lot of training sessions with the collaboration with the foreign ministry, that we bring groups from developing countries, from Asia, from South America, from Africa. We train them on sustainable agriculture, on renewable energy, environment, and gender. So we do that kind of work, and even though we don't like receive young groups, because we believe that 3 days program or 1 week program won't have an impact like the program that we conduct, which is 15 weeks. And also we're in touch on many organizations that that do such a kind of work, like Kids for Peace or Seeds for Peace and other organizations in the region.
We also bring short-term programs to the Institute, universities particularly, Worcester Polytech, Northeastern University, all had programs planned for this year, which got COVID. But we hope to have people back to visit. We have, we arrange a place for them to stay, the place for them to eat. They interact with our faculty, they interact with our students, which is really eye-opening, I think, for them, and very important part of what they do. I think the most important thing we want to say at this point is we would love you to stay in touch. Some of you have reached out. We're going to post some ways that you can stay in touch with us, including our email address, because people have asked to have Tarek as a speaker, have us come and consult to their communities, have access to this, which is going to be recorded and will be publicly available, and which can be copied. We would love you to be the part of this conversation on an ongoing basis, whether we have short-term training programs on different parts of our work or other conversations like this. As you saw, we welcomed your questions and we tried to answer many of them. We like you to consider how you can get involved. Sign up for our newsletter, be an ambassador, tell this story that you've heard of the positive work that's going forward. How this is a message that unties the knot, I think, of anti-Semitism and that we've seen, and that talks about a positive go forward in our communities on a cross-border basis, where Israel, an Israeli institute, let's be honest, it's based in Israel, it was founded in Israel, it was founded by Israelis on a kibbutz, is doing the work to forward the community and the greater good of the world. And we see this going out to conflict regions around the world. And we look forward to you connecting to us on social media. My colleague has posted to all of you how to connect, some ways to connect. You are welcome to do them. We also just got the question of, are we looking for other American universities with which to collaborate? The answer is yes. We both for recruiting students and for academic programs and for all sorts of things. Our program is accredited. Our program has real opportunities for students to come and change the nature of their understanding and bring that back to American universities, just like our Gazan students can bring that message to Gaza. Our West Bank students, our Palestinian students bring that message back to Palestine, to Jordan, throughout the region. Our American students also bring a very different message to their campus, because if this was BDS, they wouldn't be able to come to Israel because they would be boycotting. This takes place in Israel. So we look forward to hearing from you. We are also excited to have people come and be with us, whether you come directly, whether you support us directly or through our partnership with the Jewish National Fund USA. We look forward to continuing to hear from you, and thank you so much for joining us. We had 200 people with us today, which is kind of a great start, and we will also be posting this and making the recording available for those who weren't able to come and signed up, and to our wider community. Thank you, Tarek, for your time.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you for helping us to speak loud, have a major impact on the ground in this region. It was wonderful being with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your support.